ما ولا كوري لا غفرنا بين سبوت شيء إسبادي شيء فرنا بين اللي رياض غسيل الناس تجانا سري
برا إلى زاد أنت كيف مزبان ولا كذا دون الشان جبنا لا تشتي.
Despite some kind of social, hierarchical, or state power keeping most in check, some people violate the social contract or cultural codes of conduct. They do something that is thought to hurt or endanger other individuals or the collective. When someone has harmed another or broken the law, various culturally conventional alternatives exist around the world and throughout history.
ما نجي شاولي زب خبر نعمة فريسة بيركب شيء
تا خرور الشريعات هي بشرات دا شامرات نسته
Banishment, a way some indigenous societies dealt with crime in pre-colonial times. Exiled or left behind, it was essentially a death sentence. But increasingly, indigenous communities today are looking at banishment mainly as a way to deal with the growing drug problem on reserves.
Some tribes or cultures may choose to reject the offender or send them away, so that they're expelled from the community and, where relevant, its land and resources. In retribution, justice is sought by making the offender or their community suffer what they made others suffer, taking from them what they took.
The enemy came this morning to kill, to avenge the ghost of their warrior slain by Wayak's group more than 2 weeks before. Until they do, they live in a state of spiritual decline.
Some societies have punished offenders with physical pain or death, often carried out in public. Punishment of any kind is not a universal human response to violation. Some cultures practice forms of restorative justice. Restorative justice brings the perpetrator and the victim together to talk about what was done and why, address its impact in the context of larger relationship networks, and come up with a way forward to repair the damage that makes sense to both parties.
Before the war, people resolve their conflicts within the community. They sit around to discuss what went wrong.
We'll sit together in one round table and then share our minds. And of course, we'll see the way forward.
Sierra Leoneans will have something that the war did not destroy. That is the culture of forgiveness.
While it is not a given or a universal response to unwanted behaviors, many societies around the world also practice some sort of confinement or imprisonment as punishment for violation. And people might be confined, institutionalized, or imprisoned by others in their community or society for reasons beyond just breaking the law. These reasons fall loosely into 3 categories: the criminal, the psychosocial, and the political.
The U.S. locks up more people both in absolute and in proportional numbers than any other nation. In fact, since 1980, the U.S. has confined more people behind bars than has ever occurred in any recorded era of human history.
Many cultures and societies use some form of confinement as a mode of punishment, surveillance, control, and/or reform for individuals thought to have broken the social contract, endangered others, or violated fundamental rules or laws. Some of these crimes might be considered universally unacceptable, theft or murder, but other crimes are considered such only within a certain society or culture. Some behavior is criminalized or grounds for forcible institutionalization in some cultures and not others. Substance use and certain sexual practices, for example. And while some forms of cultural nonconformity or culturally disapproved behavior may be tolerated in a society, other forms might be criminalized.
October 2019. and hundreds of people with disabilities are protesting in Brussels.
What do we want? Freedom! And when do we want it? Now!
They claim that many European countries are ignoring international conventions designed to end the mistreatment of disabled people and their incarceration in state homes, denying them the freedom to live in the community.
Those individuals that differ significantly from the norm in terms of mental state, developmental difference, and other forms of disabilities may be forcibly institutionalized. This may ostensibly be to keep the individual safe and provide specialized care, but also facilitates surveillance and helps to avoid shame and stigma for the family by keeping the affected individual out of sight.
This year marks 5 years since a military coup overthrew Egypt's democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi. But not everyone is celebrating. In those 5 years, Egypt's new government has built 20 new prisons. That's probably because prisons have been filled to 3 times their capacity since the military took power. But these prisons aren't just filled with criminals. Many prisoners are political opponents, human rights defenders, journalists, and peaceful demonstrators. And they're picked up at protests or abducted and forcibly disappeared by Egyptian security forces.
A third category of imprisonment can be considered political. This may be explicit, such as confinement that's punishment for dissent, activism, or otherwise speaking out against an oppressive government. At other times, the political aspect might be slightly less obvious, such as when migrating people are held in detention centers due to shifting border policies, or when an individual of one race or class is imprisoned for an action an individual of another race or class would likely not be. In all these circumstances, imprisoned individuals lose rights they previously had to move about freely, to privacy, to their property, or to autonomy over their own bodies and daily routines, and are forced to submit to institutional or state power. We'll explore each type of imprisonment separately before thinking through their significant overlap.
While the basic idea of prison might be the same in most cultures, there are cultural differences in the contexts, conditions, and philosophies of prisons and confinement. While prisons are isolated and restricted environments designed to manage a group of individuals deemed to have acted outside of cultural norms and values, they also reflect mainstream cultural norms and values and broader cultural ideas about crime, who commits crimes and why, what people who have committed crimes might need or deserve, and what might prevent someone who has committed one crime from committing another in the future. These ideas in turn reflect an even wider sphere of ideas, from beliefs about individual agency and moral personhood to broader reflections on how a society is resourced and how it is functioning, or not, for different groups of people living in it. For example, we can compare prisons in El Salvador with prisons in Finland. With everyday citizens in danger due to surging gang violence, El Salvador declared a state of emergency in 2022. Increased arrests led to markedly safer streets, dramatically lowered murder rates, and the highest incarceration rate in the world. This carceral approach to securing the nation targeted primarily those living in El Salvador's poorest and most marginalized neighborhoods.
Inside, a man is handcuffed. His tattoo is proof of his membership in the 18th Street Gang, otherwise known as 18.
¿Cuánto está? 3 pico por todo con él.
¿No tienen algún objeto ilícito, arma? No, ¿verdad? Ya me dijo.
No, eso es la herramienta.
Vale.
What is this man being charged with?
Los cargos son organizaciones terroristas. El no
New policies intended to combat and contain gang activity loosened arrest rules and suspended basic free speech and protest rights. Alleged gang members' families have been arrested, innocent people have been denied due process, and many prisoners have died with signs of torture. So, those who once lived under the threat of gang violence now also live under the threat of detainment by police and soldiers. Meanwhile, the experience of prison in Finland is quite different.
I'm sorry, I'm a little body conscious, as you can see. I've gained a few pounds.
A dip in the frozen lake behind the prison is part of his regular workout routine.
No problem, it's okay. Okay, your turn.
Welcome to life in one of Finland's open prisons.
Finland is a relatively safe country with low levels of crime due to a comprehensive social safety net. The move towards increased technology, restrictions, and surveillance in El Salvador's approach to crime and prison, as opposed to increased freedom and integration and access to job training for incarcerated people in Finland, reflects each country's recent history, sense of general stability, and relationship to ideas about the causes of and recovery from violent crime. But most prisons around the world fall somewhere in the middle.
I want to be known for good things. I want people to see my name in the good things, not a scary criminal gang member. I feel it then when I make like something, make people happy, then I feel good. So something my style, my thing.
We want to give them work so that they get the normal rhythm of the day. I think here they somehow see the world in a different way. We treat them equally. We try to give them tools that they would never come back.
In addition to reflecting aspects of mainstream culture and society on the outside, distinct social and cultural expression arises within prisons, creating a kind of prison subculture. While some aspects of shared life may overlap to reflect life on the outside, others are an adaptation and acculturation to the uniquely constrained environment.
Now we've got what we've always wanted, bro. The biggest family that you ever fucking seen. So don't fuck with us.
The shift in norms, values, attitudes, and behaviors that prisoners undergo to cope with their new environment and the adoption of informal rules and participation in a new social structure that governs interactions among prisoners and with staff has been called prisonization. While details may vary, some aspects of prison subculture seem to resonate cross-culturally, such as a violent or unpleasant initiation into prison culture, the guarding of information from prisoner staff and fellow prisoners, the strategic organization of hierarchical relationships, quickly changing code language and slang known as argot, development of rules, prohibitions, and customs regarding hygiene, shared space, lack of personal possessions, and interactions with guards and staff, finding way to fill time, and the negotiation of new romantic and sexual relationships specific to the prison context.
After dinner, Chris took me back to Alpine to meet his new boyfriend, Ronnie. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're Ronnie?
Yes.
I'm Louis.
Nice to meet you.
So you and Chris here are kind of an item now?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's very seldom that you'll see something like this, you know, especially in the penitentiary, you know what I mean?
I've been married for almost 13 years.
You're married?
But...
To someone on the outside? So what's she going to think when she sees this?
Well, but she watches the program, you know what I mean? I'm really tripping. You know what I mean? It's you know, it's a chance that you got to take sometimes, you know what I mean? And especially, you know, it's a chance you got to take, you know what I mean? And when you
Have you got kids?
Yeah, I got 2 kids.
13 years of marriage and now this, out of nowhere. That's pretty special to me.
In addition to similar structural aspects of prison subcultures, there are also similar expressive aspects. For example, tattooing is found in many prisons. This practice can serve multiple purposes simultaneously: artistic expression for the tattooist, personal identity expression for the person requesting the tattoo, portraying sexual identity, memorializing loved ones, depicting preferred activities, professing religious beliefs, etc. Reciprocal exchange as tattooist gets goods in return, such as coffee, cigarettes, etc. Social status markers, who can sit in on a prison tattooing session, demonstration of affiliation, tattooing gang names, patron names, etc. Meet practical purposes such as identification if one dies in a fight, provide mystical protection and a sense of security, experience brief intimacy, be a way to kill time.
Каждая наколка она что-то обозначает. И не каждая наколка ты имеешь себе право колоть. Вот, одни из них вот. Ну, парусник означает то, что я вел на свободе разъездной образ жизни, то есть перекочевал с места на место. Ну, а вот это у меня здесь пират и череп. То есть пират это разбой, да. Череп с ножом, 102 статья убийства. Тоже, допустим, у многих арестантов есть крест на теле. Если он с Иисусом, то это как раз говорит о том, что это человек вор в законе.
Other elements of prison subculture may be specific to a particular cultural location and may reflect traditions, practices, and expressive culture that exists outside prison walls and informs prison life. For example, work songs created and sung by African American men incarcerated in the South, as recorded by folk singer Pete Seeger and folklorist Al Lomax in the 1960s. Both reflected a rich tradition of African American and African work songs, powerfully spoke to the experience of being imprisoned, and influenced other American musical genres. Aspects of other prison subcultures have also been shared beyond prison walls. For example, the inmates at CRPD prison in the Philippines rose to fame when their performance of Thriller went viral, and has since received over 8 million views.
Welcome to the new Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center, the home of the world famous dancing inmates.
After their performance of Michael Jackson's Thriller on YouTube in 2007, our inmates became famous. Dancing inmates! Yeah!
With its YouTube presence and Netflix miniseries, The Happy Jail joins a growing body of popular media about prison life, encompassing fiction and documentary film and social media.
Welcome to paradise.
This is true in the United States, where proliferating content seems to parallel a proliferation of literal prisons, and in other countries where incarceration rates are not nearly so high. It seems that mainstream viewers, many who never have nor ever will be incarcerated, seem to enjoy prison content. Why? Beyond sheer curiosity and sometimes being played for comedic effect, it's likely that media about prisons aim to provide a sense of voyeurism and titillation.
Jails in America are violent and understaffed.
Fictional and reality shows typically highlight violence and sex. While in reality, a majority of people are incarcerated for property and drug offenses, both fiction and nonfiction media portrays focus on violent offenders. This highlighting of a minority of offenders for their dramatic entertainment value communicates a skewed view of who is in prison and why. Some argue that in the United States, at least, the sensationalized and distorted view of prison life presented by most mainstream media allows people who have had no prison experience to believe that criminals are mostly violent, prison isn't really so bad for them, which builds their support for more prisons and longer and harsher sentences in real life. What entertainment about prison tends to leave out is the monotony and misery of prison life, its detrimental effect on people who are imprisoned, and the impact on children, families, and communities on the outside.
The uniquely restricted environment of prison inflicts several pains on those imprisoned The classic pains of imprisonment include loss of liberty, loss of desirable goods and services, loss of previous romantic relationships, loss of autonomy, and loss of security. We could also consider loss of privacy, identity, contact with family and the outside world, loss of opportunity, and more. Some of these pains are in fact typically the point. The pains of imprisonment are intended to punish and deter crime. But many people being held in prison in the United States and around the world have not yet been found guilty of a crime. Rather, they've been accused of a crime and are awaiting a trial and/or sentencing and cannot afford bail to live freely until that date. Meanwhile, those on the outside who have committed no crime also feel a loss from having a family member incarcerated.
One of the hardest feelings that I have about my son being in jail is the feeling that maybe I could have done something differently while he was growing up. Maybe I could have hugged him more. Maybe I could have spent more time with him playing when he was little. If my son was here right now, and if somebody asked him what kind of support services would have benefited you as soon as you came out of jail, he would have said, I wish that there was somebody there to support my mum.
Depending on the prison philosophy and model, these losses can either be exacerbated and pain deepens, or they can be mitigated and pains ameliorated. In the United States, certain procedures are exacerbating these pains and their effects.
What begins as excitement ends in tears for Rakila Harris Dudley and her children. Don't cry. Separated by less than 2 miles and by a jail policy that doesn't allow in-person visitation. Replacing free in-person visits with costly video calls has become the norm in hundreds of jails across the country. Now, the policy is at the center of 2 lawsuits in Michigan, including one of them here in Genesee County, which is fighting it.
We think there's a constitutional right for children to hug their parents.
The video calls are operated by for-profit telecommunications companies, but counties like Genesee get to pocket some of the revenue. Kara Casadas calls it a kickback scheme.
Meanwhile, it's not just prisoners and their families who might suffer the deleterious effects of the prison system. Those hired to guard them may experience negative effects as well. In the United States, correctional officers experience much higher rates of depression and suicide than the general public and other jobs in criminal justice or law enforcement.
I mean, look at me. I put 32 years in. And I'm still screwed up from PTS. I still dream about blood, still dream about guys hanging themselves, still dream about cutting guys down.
Macomber was motivated to share his story after seeing other corrections officers talk about their own personal stories of mental illness and suicide with City News. Macomber admits he too tried to take his own life in the past, and unfortunately some of his friends and colleagues did. He says suicidal thoughts can creep up on you after years on the job, and from what he's seeing, it's happening more now than before.
These effects are worth considering since in the United States, as the number of people incarcerated grows exponentially, so do the number of correctional officers, one of the fastest growing jobs in America for the past 15 years. Officers are mainly in charge of supervision and security, but they also dispense medication, provide informal counseling, and more. Limited ethnographic research suggests the psychological toll of the job comes from its contradictions. The job is mostly routine and mundane, but is colored by a constant hypervigilance regarding the threats of violence.
You're working in a maximum security installation where the inmates that you're dealing with are murderers, rapists, and aggravated battery, charges. Probably the most intimidating to most individuals is that when you have to go up inside and you're amongst 50 or 60 individuals that's all around you, and you're the only one inside. You look around a lot to make sure that nobody's standing behind you when you're on the tier, because if this guy doesn't like you and he wants to do something to you, once you're in there by yourself, then that's his time to do what he has to do. He'll do it and take the repercussions afterwards. So you have to be observant as to everything that's going on.
Since officers are outnumbered and at times unarmed, they are dependent on the cooperation of inmates they may be afraid of. They spend much time with the prisoners, but are counseled not to get close to them. Furthermore, as an old joke goes, a guard is just an inmate with a few more privileges. Officers often work very long hours for little pay and can feel stigmatized, either by association with the people they have been charged with guarding, who are themselves stigmatized, or because they are thought of as sadistic or abusive. All this can contribute to a sense of isolation, deadening affect, and increased cynicism.
What do you know about prison? Where did you get this information? How do you see prisons interacting with other aspects of culture in American life?
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more, here are some useful resources in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get your regular dose of Anthrodorphins.
If you'd like to learn more about the guard-prisoner dynamic, check out the segment on the Stanford prison experiment in our Forms of Violence video. If you want to hear about confinement and imprisonment in other contexts, stay tuned for the following videos in the series.